The SCP Foundation's goal is to contain potentially dangerous anomalies and study their properties. However, on rare occasions, SCPs who come in contact with one another can form the most unexpected relationships. Here is our list of the top 5 SCP friendships. Before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to our channel with notifications on so you don't miss any of our upcoming Exploring SCP videos, and very soon we will be continuing our series in which we explore possible theories about the SCP agency. Number 5. SCP-682 and SCP-053. We would hardly expect a friendship between SCP-682 and anyone else, as the indestructible anomaly has stated that even if it were to encounter an entity similar to it, but weaker, it would kill it immediately, not to mention that its purpose in life is to cause as much destruction as possible to all others. However, its killing instinct wasn't awakened when introduced to SCP-053. SCP-053 is a small 3-year-old girl that causes all humans over the age of 3 who remain around it for longer than 10 minutes to become rapidly paranoid and homicidal, attempting to kill SCP-053. However, the attackers would always suffer instant heart attacks or seizures and die in seconds. Upon first sight, SCP-682 appears to be confused and shows no sign of being affected by SCP-053, which appears to be afraid and hides behind a chair. SCP-682 lowers itself to the ground, resting its head on the floor. SCP-053 approaches 682 and, after several seconds of hesitation, briefly touches 682 before rapidly returning to her hiding place. SCP-682 does not react in any way. SCP-053 approaches 682 and pats it on its head, causing it to exhale through its forward nostrils. 053 then claps and hops in place several times before embracing the head of SCP-682. For the remainder of the testing period, 682 appears to be in a very docile state, with only 2 low-level escape attempts being made. 053 is observed to bring toys and other items to 682, and makes several drawings on its body with crayons. Staff entering at the end of the test phase to remove the 2 SCPs from one another are immediately attacked by 682, resulting in 2 deaths and 5 injuries. 682 was then successfully contained, and SCP-053 cried for several minutes after being removed from SCP-682. Number 4. SCP-542 and SCP-347. When we say SCP friendships, we imagine anomalies being friendly to each other and helping one another, but in the case of SCP-542 and 347, things seem to be a bit more romantic. On one occasion, the 2 SCPs escaped their containment simultaneously and began traveling to a nearby town. SCP-542 is called the German Surgeon by staff and is similar in appearance to Frankenstein's monster. It has earned this nickname because its skin is made from patches stitched together. It has awkward bone structure and teeth collected from different individuals. SCP-347, on the other hand, is a woman which calls herself Claudia and appears invisible to the naked eye, but appears on infrared cameras. She possesses no other unusual traits other than immense skill in picking locks, theft, and often swallows small objects in order to turn them invisible. After escaping, SCP-347 is feeling cold due to the lack of her clothes, and SCP-542 gives her his coat. Quote, "We never should have ran. It seemed like an awesome idea, but I feel like a kid who ran away from home. All I want is a bed and a blanket and a meal," she says, and SCP-542 wraps his arm around her and picks her up. SCP-347 squirms but relents after a bit. Quote, "We're domesticated," she says. "We gotta go back. I don't want to be out here. I'm tired of being cold and hungry, and unseen, and as much as I hate to admit it, I rather preferred not having to go through the trouble of hunting," end quote, replies the surgeon. Quote, "I rather liked having access to tools, a lab, fresh meat," end quote. "Disgusting," says SCP-347. Quote, "Speaking of fresh meat, if we're going to take going back seriously, there's one thing we should very much do beforehand," says SCP-542. The two SCPs chuckle. They are later recovered in a nearby restaurant, willingly having called an MTF unit to recontain them. Restaurant bill was paid in full, and all individuals administered minor-grade anesthetics. And we are left wondering whether the action spoken about by SCP-542 was indeed performed. Number 3. SCP-682 and SCP-079. Just when we thought the impossible had occurred, SCP-682 had made a friend and didn't kill all living beings it came to see instantly. Something even stranger happens. During a containment breach, SCP-079 and SCP-682 were contained within the same chamber for 43 minutes due to a lack of temporary containment units. Shortly after being put together, Foundation personnel noticed that SCP-682 approached 079 and began to communicate with it, typing on its keyboard. It was later discovered that the innocently looking communication between the SCPs included telling of personal stories between them. SCPs were then separated from one another right after the necessary facilities were available. While SCP-079 was not able to remember the specific encounter and what exactly was talked about on that day, it appears to have permanently stored SCP-682 in its memory, and often goes as far as to ask to speak to him again. The fact that SCP-079 has forgotten the conversation isn't at all surprising, given that SCP-079 only has about 64 kilobytes of memory, which isn't even enough to store a modern smartphone image. However, the mere fact it remembers SCP-682 in the first place is without a doubt amazing, and speaks for the extent the two SCPs managed to bond with one another in such a short period. SCP-682 has also stated it would like to talk to SCP-079 again, consolidating that this is in fact a real relationship, and is often teased with a second conversation with SCP-079 for the exchange of information. Number 2. SCP-507. SCP-507 is an ordinary-looking male who was recovered from an unknown asylum after several successful escapes when its anomalous properties were discovered. SCP-507's anomalous effects consists of it randomly disappearing from our world and reappearing in a slightly different alternate reality, with no control over this effect whatsoever. It has also confessed to have always had a great interest in the paranormal and mythological, which has directly led to its eventual permission to interact with relatively harmless SCPs. SCP-507 especially enjoys meeting with other sentient SCPs, once going as far as to request a small vacation to visit SCP-082, which was granted, but unfortunately uneventful. However, on one occasion, after its disappearance, SCP-507 reappeared with a perfect copy of itself. Interviews reveal that the two anomalies had had contact with each other for quite some time. During the interview, the two entities appear very coordinated, and are reluctant to share which one of them is the supposed clone. They do, however, share some information about the worlds they belong to in a very friendly and funny manner. When told that their lack of cooperation could be interpreted as an attempt to sabotage the SCP Foundation's reality, SCP-507-B jokes that a meteor strike is more likely than such a sabotage working. SCP-507-A then notes that he has been in worlds while they have been struck by meteors. Also, during the interview, SCP-507-B disappears, allowing the Doctor to ask more serious questions. One difference pointed out between their respectable worlds is that in the SCP's realities, President Lincoln is assassinated by General Lee and the Vice President respectively, whilst in the SCP world both occur. Further testing then showed that different entities of SCP-507 will shift merge, and split randomly, further complicating the SCP-507 mystery. One thing is certain though, all parts of SCP-507 get along pretty well, almost as if they're the same person. Number 1. SCP-173 and Dr. Clef. Dr. Clef sat in the dining room of his Site-19 suite. The place was lavish, gold-embossed wallpaper, ornate oak paneling, and 18th century furniture. Clef exclaimed, setting down his spoon. The soup was exquisite. D-12-130 really outdid himself tonight. Across the table, SCP-173 stared back at him, unmoving, silent. 5 D-Class personnel were positioned around the statue, struggling not to blink. A 6th man stood directly next to 173, trembling with terror, as he lifted spoonfuls of soup to its face, spearing the contents where the mouth should have been. Quote, "May I just say how lovely you look tonight, darling," end quote, Clef said, looking at the black dress covering the statue's curves, the blonde hair of the wig on its head, its stone cheeks. "Anyway," Clef said, "I got you a little something to show you how much I appreciate you sharing this evening with me." Clef reached into his pocket and took out a small box, handing it to a D-Class, who opened the box, revealing a gold necklace with dozens of small diamonds. The D-Class then reluctantly tied it around 173's neck. Clef was momentarily at a loss for words. "It suits you to perfection," he said. "God, you're beautiful. I feel like I never want to take my eyes off you. I'm suddenly not hungry anymore. What do you say we retire for the night?" Clef was lying in his ample bed, 173 at his side. "I can't tell you how much these little trysts of ours mean to me," Clef was murmuring in 173's ear. He was then interrupted by 2 of the D-Class personnel who were having an argument. Clef cleared his throat loudly. "Do you mind?" D-23897 snapped to attention and answered that he was telling another D-Class to stay awake who was falling asleep. Quote, "Oh, I see. Well, actually that's not necessary," end quote, replied the doctor, and assured the D-Class that there was no danger. When asked why they were brought in the first place, Dr. Clef replied, quote, "I just like it when people watch," end quote. What then followed can only be left to your imagination. This concludes our list of the top 5 SCP friendships. So which one do you think was the most unexpected? If there was any other SCP friendship that you think should have been included in the list, don't hesitate to share it with us in the comments. Please make sure to leave a like if you enjoyed the video, and don't forget to subscribe if you enjoy this type of content, as we have many more interesting videos coming in our SCP exploring series, such as indestructible SCPs, most powerful SCP creatures, top 5 alien SCPs, as well as interesting theories, and much more. And as always, we will see you in the next video.